Hey everybody, this is Future Crypt13 talking. This video is going to be taking a look at how I do my calculations, and we'll specifically be looking at the 4-piece Blizzard set with the Blackcliff Longsword. A lot of people were disappointed because I didn't include a crit rate in my comparisons with the 4-piece Blizzard set. I took the approach of keeping everything as consistent as possible so that you could easily see that even though a set was doing ever so slightly less damage, because it had the advantage of having an extra 40% crit rate and thus hit more consistent crit damage numbers, and of course then be stronger than the other sets. So in this video, I'm going to add that crit rate to those calcs and we'll see the average damage. I figure going forward, I'll do this all of the time and try to make those conclusions a little bit more clear. At the end of the day, this build is a very strong build. I do genuinely believe that it's probably going to be her best set, but I always err on the side of caution because things can change when the character actually releases. I also just did not say that this was going to be her best set explicitly in the video. I think something that needs to be understood is that not everyone can run the perma-freeze build because they just don't have the characters to run it. Not everyone's going to have a Mona or a Venti, and of course, depending on when they started playing this game, they might not even have Xingqiu or Diona. Even if there were opportunities to get these 4-star characters for free a couple of updates back. So what I needed to do was give many different kinds of builds as to not make it seem like Ayaka's only choice for a build was a 4-piece Blizzard set. If I had painted it that way, people might have felt compelled to spend money that they don't have, or thinking that Ayaka is completely unviable to be played in any other way, and that's just not true at all. There's literally no such thing as unviable in this game as long as you yourself are satisfied with your own results, whether it be to comfortably just explore to that, clear the abyss, or 36-star the abyss, whatever. It doesn't matter what your goals are. As long as you're satisfied, then you're good. So if you cannot wrap your head around this or understand that because you're just so focused on meta, then I highly suggest that you move on to another video if there are any that are willing to go into this much depth for you. So anyway, today's video is going to be a very largely unedited, unfiltered video taking a look at the Blackcliff Longsword 4-piece Blizzard build. I'm just gonna go ahead and jump into it. I'm going to explain to you guys here what is happening on this spreadsheet. It is very messy, and I don't share this because no one's going to understand how to use this. It's literally just me because everything is just completely unorganized here. But I will try my best to explain what's happening here. So there are some check marks for her passive 1 and her passive 2. So currently I have it at 30% damage bonus and 18%. So when she casts her E skill, she gets that 30% to her normal and charged attacks. And then when she sprints, she gets that 18% cryo damage bonus, so this applies there. So if I uncheck this, you can take a look at this damage bonus and it'll go down. And if we take a look at this passive one, you can see that her normal attacks here, right here, you can see that it goes down, and her charge attacks also go down, and nothing else here, down here, changes. So that keeps that organized up there. And then next, we have kind of her stats, so her weapon attack. So right now I have 2 weapons checked, so there's no way your weapon attack's gonna be 1075. The character's crit damage, which takes into account the ascension, and so since I'm using 80, it's 0.288 extra crit damage here, and of course it's 1+, and we have some substats added in there as well, and the crit damage bonus from the Blackcliff Longsword. The character's at level 80, and we have some attack percent. So this is the attack percent from the Sands piece, which gives us 46.6%, and then a little bit of substats as well. Let me go ahead and scroll down and show you guys that. So I should uncheck the black sword, and so you can see we're back at 565, which is what we should be at. And then here, so substats, right? I'm adding 3 rolls of 5.8. 5.8 is the highest tier roll you can get on a 5-star, and so I'm giving 3 rolls there, as well as crit damage. And then also, since so many people were triggered by me not including the crit rate, we'll go ahead and add the crit rate this time. We add these substats and we can see that reflected up here. So in addition to the cryo resonance and the 4-piece Blizzard set and 3 rolls of crit rate, your crit rate is at about 66.7%. You know, that is pretty good. I think that's a level that a lot of people that can get without like a whole lot of investment into artifact farming. Excuse me, I burped. I think that they can get 66.7% crit rate without a lot of artifact farming because, right, artifact farming just sucks balls. So that's why I go on the lower side so that we can underestimate it. And for your own types of builds, you can, you know, basically make a guesstimation since your builds are going to be better than the ones that I'm showing. So you get a baseline look at things and then you have the confidence to know that you are going to be doing much more damage than this. Your builds are going to be better than this, basically. Okay, so that explains that part. Oh, actually, let's go over this. So we have our attack percent stands here, 46.6, your cryo, which is the same, and then your crit damage. So if I click into this, we can see here that D37 here gives us 62.2% crit damage at plus 20. Cryo damage bonus is the same thing. That's D35. So D35 right here is 46.6% cryo damage bonus, and attack percent is literally the same thing. Okay, all of that stuff gets plugged into here. The base attack for Ayaka at level 80 is 302. Weapon attack for the Blackcliff Longsword is 565. The skill percent damage for Ayaka, if you total up all of her normal attacks, is 518. 0.19% scaling, and then her total damage bonus here is 2.096. Enemy damage reduction because we are setting the enemy level to 90, and then we have an attack bonus from our sands and the substats, which calculates the attack power that we are going to have with this build, as well as the total crit damage. So we're at this is 201.2% crit damage that you would see on the character status screen. You know, if you were to build it exactly like this, that's what this would be. And this is the damage that you deal, non-crit and crit. In my calculations, right, since like in the previous video, since most of the builds had pretty much the same crit rate, for simplicity's sake, I was just comparing the crit damage, which still gives us that baseline look at how each artifact set compares to each other. If you don't believe that, like if you think that's just wrong, then again, please just move on. I'm just not going to cater to you. And here is the formula if we were to calculate the average damage, including our crit rate. But actually, before I get into that, let me just show you how this attack power is calculated. So you see the attack power is calculated from the artifact level, the base attack, the weapon attack, and our attack percent bonus. So if I highlight some of these things here, we can see that's the weapon, that's our base attack. This does a query for 311 attack from our feather. Multiply all that and you get your attack power. Pretty simple. And then damage uses the attack power, enemy res, damage bonus, skill percent, and damage reduction to calculate the damage. And right, I am basically hard coding this to be a hilly churl. 0.9% is the res of a hilly churl. Because hilly churls have 10% physical res and 10% elemental res, so this just makes it easy and consistent, and you know, gives us a baseline for how things compare. Obviously there's tons of variables here, but literally can't calculate for all that. That's just too much freaking work. There's just no way I'm gonna do that. If you find someone that wants to do that for you, then go and find that person and, you know, stay away from my videos. So okay, so that explains how that happens. And crit damage is you just multiply 1 plus this. So yeah, crit damage is strong. Crit damage is very, very strong. So now I guess let me just give you some confidence that these formulas are actually working. I'm gonna go in game versus a hilly churl, plug in the stats for my Beto here, and see what happens. Okay, so here I am in game, And let's take a look at my beta stats. So her attack is 1,843. Her crit damage is 126.1. So let's go ahead and remember those numbers and plug it into our charts. Okay, so here we are back over here. We can largely ignore this stuff since this is just a calculation of her attack power from all this. So all we gotta do is hard code 1843 here and put her crit damage here, which is 126. So it's 1.261 there. So let's see if she does this much damage to a hilly churl. Okay, so I found some hilly churls here that are level 77. So again, let's go back here. Let's input the enemy level here, and so we see that our crit damage is 2128 and our non-crit damage is 941. So let's see if that's true. 2126. So we are off by 2 damage, which is probably just because of rounding errors, right? The skill damage that I'm using here is 1.1247, which is from Honey Hunter, but let's go ahead and see what it is on the talent level screen. It's 112. This extra 47% is probably increasing our damage by a little bit. So that's probably where that is coming from. And then our non-crit damage was 941. Let's see if we can hit that. 940, which is basically 941. So again, rounding errors. So that gives me full confidence that these numbers are pretty much correct. Now let me just kill these fucking hilly churls. This one survived. Okay, so now back to Ayaka. I'm trying to remember where we even were at. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so we were calculating the damage for the Blackcliff Longsword. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So, okay, here we go. Against a level 90 enemy, level 80 Ayaka, with both of her passives on, Cryo Resonance, 4-piece Blizzard set, you get 8,241 total damage from your normal attacks, non-crit, right, if none of them crit, and then total damage, right, if every single one of your hits crit, is 24,822. But obviously you're not gonna hit all those crits, but again, for simplicity, doing it this way makes it a lot easier to compare. And if we were to look at the average damage, this one includes our crit rate, right? Because everyone was bitching about it. How is this calculated? It's basically the same way that damage is calculated. Looks like I forgot to add the damage reduction in here, so I should actually add the damage reduction in here. Okay, so with the previous damage formula, I had found a mistake in it. I had actually forgotten to include the enemy res, so this number was actually a little bit higher than it should be. So I simplified it a little bit here, and so now it's just the damage multiplied by the crit damage multiplied by the crit rate. And remember, damage is just all of these things multiplied together, which was what we had before, so this just simplifies it. So now this should actually accurately give us the average damage, and the way that I check that, right, is if we have 100% crit rate, then the average damage is just whatever the crit damage is, and so they are now the same. So this formula should now be accurate. So this was hard coded, so I need to change this back to what it was before so that we can use our checks a little bit better. So let's go ahead and take a look at the average damage now. So let's see, this is, what are we looking at? 2-piece Blizzard and 2-piece Gladiator with attack percent, cryo damage, crit damage, and the Black Sword. We have 53.4% crit rate. Our average damage is 13,157. That seems about right. So now let's compare that to the Blackcliff Longsword, 0 stacks, to a 4-piece Blizzard Blizzard set with 66.7%. The damage is now 16,556. So I am curious what the damage difference is. So let's go ahead and pull up the calculator here. Let's see, 16,556, 16,556, and what was it with our other one? Two-piece Blizzard, two-piece Gladiator, Black Sword. Bring that back. 13,157. 13,157. What is the damage difference? Damage difference is 22.8789%. So 23% damage difference between those two builds. 20%. I mean, I guess that is pretty large. If I'm being honest, that is pretty sizable, but it's not like it's 100% more damage. It's not like it's 50% more damage. So it's large, but it's not enormous. So there you go. So that includes crit rate and all of that. There you have it. That's how much better the Blizzard set, 4-piece Blizzard set is compared to kind of your classic builds that, you know, don't require to have a lot of artifact farming. There you have it. I'm not gonna go through every single attack because, so if you came here looking for that comparison with just crit rate, you can now very safely leave. I'll go ahead and allow you to do that. Alright, so for the people that actually stuck around after that brief pause, I was actually pretty curious myself how everything was damage-wise with the 4-piece Blizzard set, so I went ahead and added everything to a table. Let me just clarify again what the builds I was using. So they're classic builds, right? So attack percent, cryo damage percent, and then the circlet we're using is crit damage. We're going to be using crit damage for both the Black Sword build and the Blackcliff Longsword build. So we use Black Sword with crit damage circlet on these top two builds. So 2-piece Blizzard and 2-piece Gladiator, and then the 2-piece Gladiator with 2-piece Shiminawa. I don't mind this that it says memories. That's what it was called when it was first leaked. I'm too lazy to change it. And then with the 4-piece Blizzard, the build is Blackcliff Sword with crit damage, and then of course, right, cryo resonance as well is included in this. So this is the average damage we are doing while including the crit rate that I just looked at before. How do things look? Well, I think it's pretty obvious. So if I scroll over to the chart here, the stack chart, we can see that, yeah, you know, the Black Sword build does not do as well as the 4-piece Blizzard build. You can see that this one, like overall damage, right, if everything is stacked on each other, right, if you happen to do a rotation that looks like this, pretty much, what is this, I don't know, maybe like almost double, because double's 10,000 and we're doing 82,000 instead of 100,000. Sorry, not 10,000, 100,000. And then we can look at this chart, which is just, you know, by skill, and you know, it's very obvious how much more damage that the Blizzard set does when it comes to each part of her kit. So yeah, pretty clear. 4-piece Blizzard definitely does the most damage when you run it with Blackcliff Sword and crit damage. Now, I was curious if we ran Blizzard and Blackcliff Sword, making our crit rate 93% is a lot of crit rate. We're going to be hitting crits literally almost all the time. So we take a look at our average here. It's 18,373. Our charge attacks is 10,000. E-skill is 12,000. Our burst is doing 5k per tick. So this is a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and input this into the table. So I will cut that part out. And okay, we're back. I have inputted the 4-piece Blizzard set with the Black Sword with what? I had 93% crit rate with that build into the table, and also add it to the graph. So let's take a look. And according to the stacked graph, yeah, it is overall, like the total damage of all of our attacks is the greatest, but right, this is not, you can't take this as this is going to be the best, because if we take a look at it here, the main part with the black sword is, right, the normal and charged attacks, it's because of that bonus. That one deals a lot more damage. But if you look at the E skill, the burst slashing damage and the blade storm, that does less damage. Not that much less damage, but it is less. This says burst slashing times 15, but that's not actually times 15. This is just one tick. So obviously, right, if we multiply this by 15, black sword is gonna fall behind quite a bit. But clearly, you know, when it comes to normal charged attacks, yeah, it deals much more damage than 4-piece Blizzard with Blackcliff sword when it comes to average damage. So there you go. That's interesting. But also kind of expected because, right, we're buffing that and we have freaking 93% crit rate. And for the people that actually did stick around and are super meta heads, and so before you guys get your panties into a bunch, turn on your P-brain and realize how many substats that I'm using. I'm obviously using less, and the ratio of our crit damage and crit rate is just kind of really out of whack. 160 crit damage and 93% crit rate. This would have been better if our crit damage was a little bit higher, right? So if we had better substats here, then obviously things would change. But with what we're looking at here, yeah, normal charge attacks stronger than Blackcliff sword, but when it comes to this, it's slightly lower. I thought that was interesting. I think that's pretty cool. So honestly, I mean, I don't think it really matters how you kind of build her. If you go with 4-piece Blizzard, you can kind of go with black sword or Blackcliff. They're super similar, but with those obvious differences. So do you want to see those crit numbers appear much more often, or do you want to see them appear every, what was it? I think it was like 66% of the time. And obviously, if you have better substats, then you make your decision based off of that. I'm not going to spell out every single situation. So use your brains, people. I am not going to spell everything out. I think that the information that I provided is sufficient enough for you guys to make those decisions on your own. All right, well, you know what? This is the end of the video. Thank you guys for sticking around and for watching. And I apologize for being kind of negative and angry throughout this video, but that's kind of how I felt with the negativity that I got with the calculations I did in my previous Ayaka video. But anyway, until next time, I hope everyone else has a good day. I will see you guys next time.